I've been a classroom teacher for about 27 years, most of which has been spent teaching science to elementary age students. As a teacher, my goals have always been to, one, make sure that my students are interested in what we're learning, and to make sure they leave me at the end of the school year with a better understanding of the world that we stay in. Part of my plan for accomplishing this down through the years has been to develop well-planned lessons that give students the opportunity to take charge of their learning as I make myself a facilitator, because I believe that rote memory activities and lecture-style classes are not as effective as letting children get their hands dirty, so to speak.
So what I did, I took 4 things that just about all of them probably have in their homes. I wanted to take those 4 things. Most of them had come in contact with it, touched it, had a chance to feel it, and I wanted to use those 4 things to teach density and the fact that liquids, although they can be the same amount, can have different amounts of density.
The more density the substance has, the more it goes to the bottom. Corn syrup has 1 in 33 hundredths amounts of density and it sank to the bottom. Liquid soap, 1 in 600 amounts of density and it went just on top of the corn syrup water. We think this information proves our result hypothesis correct.
Well, they're going to remember the majority of what they do, very little of what I say. I can say a lot, but if I don't let them do it, then it's going to go right over their heads.
I've been teaching for about 15 years, and my passion for the environment is hard to put into words. Everything I do is trying to get kids to just fall in love with science in general. And the lesson that you see is a reinforcement of topics that I taught on classification and taxonomy, phylums, classes. I wanted to take that information instead of just sit and get. We head over to the lab outside of my classroom right across the hall, and they have stations set up. Each one of those reinforces some topic that I taught in class in a different way. That way it plays to all of the strengths and weaknesses of all the students. And as they move, you can see that, they're talking to each other. There's higher order thinking going on. There's reinforcement.
Arthropod. No, that's an arachnid.
Which is great. That's learning. I also don't think that I should come in and always answer. I feel like the students need to try to learn on their own. So you're going to find me popping around and putting them on the spot, and they don't always get it right. And I feel like that's what a real classroom is. Because every side that they touch has to be that connection. Not that they have something in common. They actually have to have the exact same thing.
As a general education second grade teacher, I am with my kids for 6.5 hours of instructional minutes per day. I have the opportunity and the honor to teach my students how to read, how to write, how to become problem solvers and mathematicians and scientists. And so part of my required curriculum centered on the fairy tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. So rather than just teaching them that, I brought in some lima beans and we did some experiments with planting and germinating those seeds with and without light.
What do you notice? What can you tell about the lima bean seed?
I can see the roots right there, and I can also see that it's really tall. It's getting and it's also cracked open here.
I work with really phenomenal, wonderful students who come to me from all over the world. We have 566 kids speaking 39 world languages, and thank you again very much.
Hi, I'm Gwen Jones. First, we want to say thank you. This is our lab that we are in the process of redoing, and you helped us get all of this. These tables are some of the things that we bought, and these are some of our kids experimenting because we got magnet sets. We didn't have any of this. Our vision was to create a place when the kids came in, it created an atmosphere that helped them to be more involved with science, and they absolutely love coming in here now. I've done a lot of professional development, which is really helping me to rethink how to set things up, rethink how to guide my kids. I've had a chance to work with colleagues, which is amazing. I've done a lot of virtual things. I've done the daily class thing. You're the impetus for all of this. So someday you may be what they become in the future because of the exposure They're receiving from you.
I wanted to share with you how this Shell Grant has impacted my classroom here in Louisiana and what resources I was able to get to extend my learning and really improve my teaching here in my classroom. I teach 7th and 8th grade, and content's totally different, still science, but 2 totally different pieces of content. So I have so many resources and just not enough room to put them. So what I decided to use this money for was to purchase some cabinets, and I purchased 3 of these. So I will show you how awesome it is to have a cabinet full of materials for my kids to use. Every single one of these pieces in here is important. To 1 grade level, 1 unit, 1 lesson, doesn't matter. Everything has a purpose in here. Some of our units here have been light with the hands-on activities lately, so my kids are gonna get to experience some of this stuff very, very soon, and I cannot wait to see the looks on their faces when they see all of this material pulled out for a lab activity or for a hands-on activity. It's gonna be fantastic. So I'm hoping that you guys see the amazing things that you have been able to help me do for this classroom, and I cannot thank you enough. I'm absolutely in love with all of our resources. I am in love with our cabinets and I am in love with all of the cool things that we are able to do now in my classroom here in Port Allen, Louisiana. Thanks.
I am so excited to have been awarded the Shell Science Lab Regional Challenge for the Kermit region. This award has already allowed me to make huge changes in my classroom. I needed tables students should work at. I needed storage for student projects and space to set up robotics fields without blocking student access to tools and materials for projects. While robotics and engineering do not have any standardized tests in Texas, I do closely monitor my student progress to assess the effect of these changes on my students' learning. I will be comparing data from this year's classes to last year's, as well as data from the beginning of this school year until the end. I'll be looking for acquisition of specific skills including programming, soldering, and CAD design. I'll also look for improvements in project management and use of the engineering design process. These changes will also improve as skills build year to year. I look forward to seeing how the changes I have made thanks to Shell and NSTA will improve student skills this year and for many years to come.
In an urban community, what are some of the challenges you face to provide students access and opportunity to be successful in science?
Funding,
Resources, and money. I've taught biology, chemistry, physics, and each of these has required me to buy some type of material throughout the years, which are not reimbursed.
Our funding is very low, and when it comes through, science sometimes doesn't get to see the bulk of that money.
When they were at the primary grades, the directive for a lot of teachers for those grades has been to just focus on literacy and math. So I find myself backtracking to provide remedial instruction and then trying to hurry up and teach them at level instruction.
What are key barriers that need attention to allow more diverse science educators in the workforce?
Many college graduates are coming into the education field with more debt than they have future earnings. So a lot of these individuals are going to start transferring to these higher paying careers for their expertise.
I see these girls go into the workforce really early to help their families out. And it's heartbreaking because some of these girls have really high potential, and they go into the workforce, they stop their education, and then that's it.
The research shows that there is an extreme need of teachers in science, but we are not having those conversations from the district on up to the national level as to why we are not seeing that. Is there something that is not being said? Is there a wrong thing that is being said? Are you asking teachers why they're not becoming science teachers? Those who are interested in science, ask them what do they need to become science teachers. As of right now at my school, I'm the only African American female science teacher, the only African American science teacher, period. And that's unacceptable.
Acceptance of differences. We're not all the same. We don't all look the same. We don't all have the same ideas. We don't
learn the same ways per se, or we don't even teach the same ways, and that is okay. Including that diversity to create more diversity is something that we are going to have to do. And I don't know, I think that's a beautiful thing all in itself.
What are the benefits of being a role model representing an underserved population to your students?
It is a priority for me as an educator to be the best role model, both in and out of the classroom, as a representation of all my scholars, regardless of their ethnicity and or socioeconomic background.
I get to represent hope, and I get to represent promise. I get to be a trailblazer, if you will.
And for myself, it keeps me motivated because I see that my students are watching me and they're looking up to me at the same time. So it motivates me to stay on my game as an educator as well.
I'm a female. I majored in biology and chemistry at University of Houston. And so it's almost kind of rare sometimes to see, women in STEM. And so that's one of the things that we can share.
Students cannot strive to be what they don't see. And so therefore, being a role model in science is very important to me. I've had the great opportunity of teaching at an all-girls public school in which all of the students, preschool to 8th grade, are African American. So I take pride in them coming to my room every day in science class and seeing, yes, there are African American women in science because I'm looking at my teacher.
I didn't think I would ever be a teacher. I didn't think that science would be my thing because science was really, really hard. So I can relate. I grew up in an inner city. When these girls have issues, I can look at them and I can say, you can do it. Look at me. If I can do it, you can do it.
How does this partnership with Shell create advocacy, equity, and inclusion for you and your students?
I am able to attend professional development for science that I need, and most importantly, I have the privilege of now being able to attend professional development that is geared towards how to effectively teach urban students science.
Throughout my doctorate, I was learning a little bit more about multicultural science education and how to best help our population learn science and go beyond just knowing the material, but actually going out and actually doing real world applications.
Shell is such a huge industry leader that they can give a school of 10 teachers, one principal, and 80 students a big voice when we really and truly are one of the smallest voices here in Phoenix.